Okay, student, good morning. Today we are going to continue our discussion on Chapter 9, Share Variation. Before that, I'd like to let you know I have completed the marking of our Test 1, Session B. Here, I'd like to let you know when I do the marking, my expectation, right? Because the test is online test, it's open book. Therefore, we have higher requirement. So I hope students, you understand the reason. Although you get the correct number, it doesn't mean you can get a full mark, right? So let me show you my expectation in brief. All right. So first, I will check the number, right? Your number should be correct. This is question 1. Then I will ask student to show me the calculation process, right? You can either use a formula in Excel or the original finance formula, all right? Finally, this could be, for me, the most important step. You need to draw the timeline, identify the amount of money, the timing of money, then how you move the money through the timeline. All right, for me, it's very important. All right, so for example, here you can see question 1, part A, we move the money forward. Or then B, we move the money backward. All right, or C, we move the money to, to the year 3. All right, so I mean, some students, you might feel I get the correct number, why I cannot get a full mark? Because this is open book test, right? It's online test. I have higher requirement, right? I will upload the sample answer to Moodle. You can take a look, right? In our test 2, session B, I have the same requirement, not only the number, all right? I hope to see the calculation process and make sure you understand the concept, the key concept, all right? Okay, so we are going to continue our discussion on share variation. So on Tuesday, we discussed the DGM model, dividend growth model. Here, I show you the final result. Share price today, P0 is D1 over R minus G. R is our required return. G is dividend growth rate. However, when we use a DGM model, we have many assumptions. All right. One of the key assumptions is the G, dividend growth rate. But in practice, G is not a constant. Right? G is not a constant. Therefore, we like to discuss the limitations of the DGM model and the solutions. All right. So let me follow my slide. So on this slide, we discuss the relation between R and the G. So we discuss a special case, 1, when G is equal to R, right? When dividend growth rate is equal to our required return. So let me show you my handwritten note here. So this is our DGM model formula. If G is equal to R, you can see R minus G is 0. That means P0 is infinity. It makes no sense, all right? Another problem is G is higher than R. If the dividend growth rate is very high, for example, we address the situation here, supernormal growth rate. So a company might have a very high dividend growth rate. Then you can see the problem. G is higher than R. R minus G is negative. Therefore, P0 is negative. Again, this result makes no sense, right? So this is the problem. So first problem is G could be very high and higher than R, the supernormal growth rate, right? So here we discuss another problem is G is not a constant. So here we address the issue of life cycle. right? So the company might have different dividend patterns over time. So let me show you my handwritten note. You can understand what is a life cycle in an easy way. So life cycle like a person. So a company also has a life cycle. So like a first stage, start-up stage, no dividend. The company will keep all its earning for reinvestment, will not pay dividend. Dividend is zero, no dividend. Then they will go to the next stage, a growth stage. They pay high dividend. And dividend growth rate might be higher than R. Right? And you can see on the startup, at the startup stage and the growth stage, we cannot use the DGM model. Right? We need to use the general present value formula. Right? Then mature stage, dividend growth rate will be stable. We have a stable dividend growth rate. G become a constant. Then we can apply our DGM model. All right. So you can see in practice, we have the issue of life cycle. We do. All right. Dividend growth rate is not a constant. And we have different stage. Right. So because of the problem, next slide, mixed growth. So we do the share variation under mixed growth. So the value of a share for a company with supernormal dividend growth pattern, we do not need to we do not need to develop any new equations. So here is our example. Suppose a company expected dividend pattern for 3 years is as follows. Right, $1 for dividend at year 1, $2 for dividend at year 2, $3 dividend at year 3. Right. So you can see the dividend growth rate is very high. $1 to $2, the growth rate is 100%. Right. So the dividend growth rate is very high. You cannot use the DGM model. All right. But after 3 years, the dividend are expected to grow a constant rate. G is 6% per year. So after year 3, G will be a constant, 6%. All right, a stable constant, right, a stable growth rate. So the critical element in working this problem are to correctly identify when the constant growth stop and to value it properly. All right. So in this example, we give you year 3. All right. After year 3, constant growth rate stop. But you know, in practice, financial analysts need to estimate the year, right? Which year the constant growth will stop. You know, it's not easy. So this is why share variation is more difficult than bond variation, right? Dividend growth rate is not a constant, all right? And we need to know when, or we need to estimate when the constant growth rate stop, right? It's another big problem. But here, because this is FINAN101, we just give you all the data directly, all right? So we tell you, okay, after year 3, constant growth starts, right? So given that, now how we do the share variation. So again, the first step is to hand draw the timeline. All right, so you can see year 1, 2, 3, dividend $1 year 1, $2 year 2, $3 year 3, right? After that, dividend has a constant growth rate, 6%, right? So D3 to D4, 3 times 1 plus 0.06, 3.18, D4, and D5, all right, 6%. All right, so then how we do the variation? So let me show you my handwritten note here. So the point is, first, we need to decide P3 because after year 3, dividend growth rate is a constant, 6%. So we can use our DGM model to calculate P3. P3 will be present value of D4, D5 to D forever. And this is our DGM model. So you can see now we use P3 and here is D4. All right. In our original DGM model, this is P1. This is D1. Right. But you can see we can have the general result, P3, D4. Yes. Yes, you're right. Thank you for pointing this out. It's a very good question. So, yeah, it's what she said. The students say, yeah, it's correct. We can bring D4, D5 to D forever to year 3. Then we have P3, right? The DGM model, right? And this is the final number. So you can see I make a comparison in our previous formula. Our DGM model, you can see P0 versus D1. Right now, in the general result, we can use PT versus DT plus 1. All right. So, I mean, in the test 2, I will have a shear variation, right? And the cutoff year could be any year, not year 3. In the example, I can use year 5 or year 4. Right, so I hope you understand the concept, all right? So after we have P3, now our shear variation here, we have D1, D2, D3, and the P3. Then we bring all of them to today, then add up, all right? So here is our calculation, D1, D2, D3, present value of the missed growth dividend payment plus P3 over 1 plus R with power 3. Right, the present value of P3. Then adding up, this is our P0. Okay. So let me give you the number. All right. So our dividend growth rate, G, 6%. Right. Required return, 15% or 0.15. Then we have P3, right? This is our P3, and this is our P0, okay? You can do the calculation by hand. If you want to do the calculation using the Excel, yeah, it's good because it can save you time. So you can see how I use the Excel to do the calculation. So again, this is our question. So the cutoff year 3, this is the point, all right? So we have D1, D2, D3, right? After year 3, our dividend growth rate, 6%. We apply the DGM model to have P3, right? I calculate P3 here, right? This is a P3. So at year 3, our total cash flow here, P3 plus D3 is here, all right? And D1, D2. Then I use the NPV formula in the Excel. So NPV formula, the first variable is our required return. Then we have D3 to D7. They are our cash flows, right? Cash flow. Then I have P0. Right. By the way, this Excel file for the NPV formula is available on our Moodle page, right? So you can download the Excel. But when you do other question, don't forget draw the timeline, all right? Then you might need to change the year, right? You have different number, but for me, the concept is the same. So in our final test 2, we have a shear variation using multiple stage growth model, all right? Not a constant growth. Constant growth could be too easy, all right? So we give you one more example to apply the multiple stage model. This is our example 2. So we have a company, right? This company is a high-tech medical device company, all right? So let's see the life cycle of the company. The company is 3 years old and has experienced spectacular growth since its inception. And this company plans to pay no dividend for the next 5 years, right? Growing stage, no dividend, all right? In year 6, management plan to pay a large special cash dividend, which you estimate to be $25 per year. Right. So year 6, we have a dividend payment, $25. Then beginning in year 7, management plan to pay a constant annual dividend of $6 per share for the foreseeable future. That means forever, $6 forever. That means dividend growth rate is 0. All right. So you can see we have 3 stages. No dividend, year 1 to year 5. Year 6, a large dividend, $25. After year 6, from year 7, constant dividend payment, $6. Right. So again, when do this question, I know I need to hand draw the timeline. All right. So year 0 to year 5, no dividend or 0 dividend. Okay. And year 6, yes. Yet. Sorry. This is our assumption, because in this example, we assume there's no dividend from year. Yes, next 5 years. From the opening, yeah, from opening, including year 0. For next year 5, including right now, including year 0. I know you might think he did not mention year 0, but here I assume no dividend from now for next 5 years. All right, okay. So 0 from year 0 to year 5, right? No dividend. And year 6, yeah, thank you for the question. Very detailed. Very detailed. I hope this question is clear enough. But for me, my understanding, year 6, the company will pay a high dividend, $25, right? Very high dividend, all right? And year 7, from year 7, forever, dividend is $6 constant, all right? So when I do this question, P0 will be present value of D6, right? Dividend at year 6, plus present value of P6, because after year 7, we have a constant dividend. Then I can use the DGM model to calculate P6. So P6 will be D7 over R minus G, right? Again, you can see P6 versus D7 in our DGM model. All right, P6 versus D7. So D7, $6, right? And R minus G. In this example, our G is 0, constant dividend. All right, G is 0, and R is 0.12. So I have P6, and I have D6, right? Then bring them to today. Present value, 8 now. Right. Please note, I will change the data. All right. I hope you understand the concept. All right. It's important because I believe AI will not do the question for you because I can change the number and you need to hand draw the timeline. All right. So for me, it's important. All right. So if you understand the concept, now we show you the detail. And on the next page, we show you the discount rate. So the discount rate for the share is 12%. And the current market price is $25 per share. So you are the financial analyst, but your manager, your boss doesn't think the share are worth the price, but you think they are a bargain and that you should recommend them to the company client. So who is right? So market price is $25 today. The price is too high or too low, depends on its value. So we do the share variation. If after we have the share value, if the value is higher than the price, then our recommendation will be to buy. Right. On the other hand, if the value is lower than the market price today, our recommendation is to sell. All right. So the basic question is the value, the share value. So we do the calculation. So you can see we hand draw the timeline. Then we have D6, $25. After year 6, D7, so year 7, year 8, a constant dividend forever. So we can use the DGM model to have P6. All right. Then we do the calculation here. All right. So P0 will be present value of D6 plus present value of P6. Right. Then we use the number to have the result. D7, $6, R, 12%, 0.12. Dividend growth rate 0. Then this is our P6. And altogether, our P0 is here. Right. Then we make a comparison with the market price of the share, $25. Right. And you can see the share value is higher than the market price. Therefore, our recommendation is to buy. Right. So this example, I hope you can know how to do the calculation. The market rate? But we always need a require. Yeah, we only need a required return. So how to calculate? We use a CAPM model. So later I will give you how we calculate CAPM model. We need a beta, the beta of the company. So thank you for this question. You go ahead of me. So I will give you the next slide. I give you the mini case. So you know in practice how financial analysts they do the share variation. All right. So let me show you how we do the share variation. So you can see this slide, this example I used before, the 2021. Please assume today, 2021, right? So we like to know the share value of Genesis Energy, right? So I collect the data, a dividend for Genesis Energy, $0.18 per share. This is our dividend. Then I apply the CAPM model to calculate the required return. This is our CAPM model. I hope you remember the CAPM model. If not, please refer to our chapter 7. All right, chapter 7. So CAPM model is risk-free rate. So in New Zealand, we use the OCR rate for the risk-free rate. It's 4 years ago, our risk-free rate is very high, 5.5%. But now I think it's down to 3.5. Okay, this is our OCR rate, right? So assume 2021 is today, all right? So risk-free rate plus beta, again, beta, you can find the beta from Yahoo Finance. I show you the Yahoo Finance screenshot before, all right? So beta of Genesis Energy is here. And the market return, so we use the New Zealand Stock Exchange market return. Again, you can find the data online, right? So I use the average market return is about 9.26%. Right? Risk-free rate is here. So using the cap-in, I have the required return of Genesis 7.15%, right? Next, I apply the DDM model, dividend discounting model. But here I use the simple case. I assume dividend growth rate is 0, right? 0 growth, and I have the result. Okay, then share price in the market is 2.69, and our share value 2.52. So our recommendation is to sell, right? So this is just one example. However, in this example, we assume 0 growth. If we want to know the growth rate, dividend growth rate, for example, I collect historical data to have the dividend growth rate 4.2%. Then I apply the DDM model with constant growth. Then I have this figure, right? Then share value is higher than share price in the market. Our recommendation will be to buy, right? So you can see different models will give you different result, right? What might give you different result. 0 growth to sell, constant growth to buy, and you might consider multi-stage DDM model, right? So share variation is very difficult because we need to make some assumption. The dividend is not a constant, all right? So this is the problem. And if you are interested in the share variation, in finance, share variation is very important. In our CO2, finance CO2, we have other share variation models. Not only dividend model, we have other model, right? Like for example, the balance sheet model, P/E ratio model, the cash flow model. Right? So we finished the discussion of this topic. This is a big topic. And thank you for the question by our student. So I like to review some key concepts for you here. Okay, so we address the limitation of the DGM model and the solution, right? So this is our DGM model. I think the first problem is G could be higher than R, right? Or supernormal growth, right? And the G is not a constant. But we can have a solution. You draw the timeline and identify when the constant growth starts. Right? After constant growth starts, you apply the DGM model. And we use the multi-stage DGM model to do the share variation. Okay. Again, I like to highlight, share variation is challenging. So in finance, we have many share variation models. Right? In addition to dividend model, we have balance sheet model, P/E ratio model, cash flow model. Right? It's a very big topic. Right? Okay, we have a final topic for today's lecture, variation of preference share. Right? So we have DGM for variation of common share, right, or ordinary share. Then we discuss the preference share. So let me follow my PowerPoint slide. So our first point is value preference share with fixed maturity. So in calculating the value of preference share, the critical issue is whether the preference share have a maturity. Right? If the preference share contract has a sinking fund that calls for mandatory retirement of the share over a scheduled period of time, financial analysts will tend to treat the share as if they were a bond with a fixed maturity. Right? So if the preference share has a constant dividend payment, if the constant dividend payment has a maturity date, the preference share will be like a bond. Bond has a maturity date, right? However, we like to address the difference between a preference share with fixed maturity and a bond. The difference between them is the risk of default. Okay, let me show you my note to address the issue. So I hope you remember our discussion. The priority. When a company goes bankrupt, they need to pay bond investor first, then preference share investor, finally, ordinary share investor. So normally, ordinary share investor will receive nothing. When the company goes bankrupt. All right. So these are priority, right? Payment priority. So the risk. So bond investor, the risk is the lowest. Then preference share investor. Then ordinary share investor, right? And the risk will affect our required return. Higher risk, higher required return. So ordinary share will have higher required return, right? Because of the risk, they have the highest risk, all right? Okay, so if we have the preference share with the maturity date, the variation will be like our bond. So let me give you an example. So suppose that an energy company preference share have an annual dividend payment $10, address the payment frequency semi-annually. So you have to adjust the data, okay, according to payment frequency. A state a par value $100 and the effective maturity of 20 years, right? Owing to a sinking fund requirement. If the similar preference share issue have a market yield of 8%, what is the value of the preference share? Right. So again, when I do the finance question, I will prepare the timeline. So let me show you how I convert the test information into the timeline. All right. So this is our timeline. 20 years to maturity. Please note, payment frequency semi-annual. So number of period will be 40. So I have year period 1, 2, 3 to 40. Right. And dividend payment $5 every period. Lump sum payment or the par payment, par value $100. All right. So now you can see the preference share is like our bond, right? And we have number of period 20 times 2, 40. Dividend payment $10 divided by 2 because payment semi-annually, the pay semi-annually. So it's $10 divided by 2. And our I, the red, 8%. The bond yield, the market yield, 8%. Again, 8% divided by 2, 4%, right? Par payment, $100. Then I can use the PV formula in the Excel to do the bond price or the P0. And let me give you the final result is here. All right. So I hope you understand the key. The key is the data adjustment. All right, you have to adjust the data according to the payment frequency. You can use the Excel to do the calculation or use the formula. So you can use the formula here is a detail, right? Or you can use the Excel. We have 5 variables in the formula. Given any 4 of them, we may know the fifth, right? So okay. Okay, next slide, we discuss the issue. Value preference share with no maturity. So perpetuity preference share. So some preference share issue have no maturity. And I know dividend for preference share is a constant. That means dividend growth rate is 0, right? So the fixed dividend payment will go on forever. So this is our general DGM model. Dividend is a constant forever. Then we have the result, perpetuity result. Yeah. Yeah. So for preference share, the key principle about preference share is constant dividend. Constant dividend. So constant dividend, that means dividend will not change, right? However, the maturity date, in practice, we have two types of preference share. One with maturity, second with no maturity. But dividend will not change because it's the preference share. But ordinary share will have different dividend, right? Dividend payment is not an obligation to the company for ordinary share. But preference share, the dividend payment to preference share is an obligation. The company need to do that. If not, that means they go bankrupt, right? Then if they go bankrupt, they need to pay bond investor first, then preference share investor, finally ordinary share investor, right? Okay, all right. Thank you for the question. Yeah. Yeah. No, we don't have, because it's a rule, you know, it's like a the yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So yeah. So there's a difference between ordinary share and the preference share. I think student is a good opportunity for you to understand the difference between ordinary share and the preference share. So ordinary share dividends payment is not an obligation to the company. They can decide they want to pay dividend or not. All right. But preference share, the dividend payment to preference share is an obligation. Right? It's an obligation to the company, and it should be a constant, right? But the company can decide whether they want to issue a preference share with maturity or with no maturity. All right. So this is the preference share with no maturity. Dividend is a constant, so we have the result of perpetuity. All right. So now we give you an example. The Quanta issue a preference share, right? That pay a dividend $5 per year, right? So $5 constant, right? And the investor require 18% return for such investment. What is the value of the preference share? And this is our result. Okay. Okay, we finished the lecture. So again, let me review the key concept for the preference share to you. So for me, the variation of preference share, if we have maturity date, the preference share will be like a bond with a fixed maturity, right? You can refer to our chapter 7 for bond variation. On the other hand, preference share might have no maturity, right? If preference share have no maturity, then we have the perpetuity result, right? It's in our chapter 6. Okay, we finished the discussion. Before we go, let me show you the QR code. Okay, student, the QR code ready for you. Online student, I hope you can see the QR code from your end. If not, you can use our Moodle page to record your attendance. So see you next week.